As a disclaimer, there will be deer harvested in this video, along with entry wounds, exit wounds, and gore shown and talked about throughout the video. In this video, you're going to watch 11 real-world examples of the 6 different broadheads that I've used over the past year and how they performed on whitetail deer. Broadhead choice can be a hot topic and something that varies from user to user depending on what style and brand that you like. There's a lot of different great ones out there. I've used a number of them over the past 12 years, and the reason I chose these broadheads that I'm about to use is because they're some of the most popular and talked about broadheads on the market today. These are all 100 grain heads, and the first one is the Slick Trick Standard. It's a 4-blade fixed broadhead. I've never used this on a whitetail before, so it's going to be super interesting to see what the results are. The second one is one that I've used a lot and probably shot more animals with it than any other broadhead over the past 12 years. That's the Rage Chisel Tip 2-inch cut. My favorite broadhead so far, hands down. But I wanted to test it against a couple other ones. So the next one is a Sever Titanium 2.0, another broadhead that I've used a couple times in the past, but only on a few animals and really haven't tested it extensively. Next up is the G5 Dead Meat V2. This broadhead looks super sharp and I really like the design on it. Again, never used this broadhead, so super curious to see how it performs. After that is going to be the Grim Reaper Pro Series 3-blade. Never used this head before. Once again, interested to see how it performs. And the last one is the Swacker 261 Levi Morgan Edition. Haven't used this head at all either, so I'm super interested and curious to see how it performs. You might be thinking to yourself, 11 deer killed in this video, that sure seems like a lot. And you'd be right, but thankfully I'm able to manage a lot of acres of land, and as the manager, it's my responsibility to keep the buck to doe ratio in check and remove some of the does off of these farms. So in doing that, I've got 13 doe tags and 2 buck tags, trying to do some management for these farms and keep the doe population in check. A little bit about the setup you'll be seeing me use in this video. I've got a Hoyt RX7, 70 pounds, 29-inch draw. My arrow is 467 grains. It's 27¼ inch long, and I'm shooting a 340 spine. It is important to note that not all bow setups have enough energy to shoot mechanical broadheads. Even with the heavier arrow, those that shoot lighter poundage or shorter draw lengths may not have the energy necessary to expand that head and still get great penetration when going through game. So it's extremely important to make sure that your bow setup is proper for the broadheads that you're shooting. I do want to mention we are not affiliated with any broadhead brand whatsoever. All these broadheads you're about to see me use were purchased on my own dime just because I want to get more experience with different types and brands of heads and give you guys the best knowledge and information out there so you can make the best decision for yourselves. Now with that, let's get into these hunts. I'm super excited to show you guys some real world experience in testing out these broadheads. Back in the stand, a beautiful early October morning. A lot of deer in the area. Hoping to fill a couple doe tags this morning. First deer of the year. She came past at like 12 yards. Arrow's totally covered in blood, and I know she went in just by the cedar tree back behind me not too far away, so let's go grab her. There she is, hardly made it anywhere. Super thankful for my first deer of the year. My freezer's been empty the past couple months, so I'm really excited to get some nice, lean, fresh venison back in the freezer. Fuel me the rest of the year. Got a lot more tags in my pocket, and I'm excited for the next hunt. 12-yard shot on the first animal I've ever taken with a fixed blade broadhead, believe it or not. It's the Slick Trick Standard, and she won about 40 yards, so died very, very quickly. They were zipped right through, amazing penetration as to be expected. The hole was pretty small. As you can see in the photos, I really wasn't expecting much because it's a fairly small fixed blade broadhead, and also because of that there really wasn't a ton of blood. There was a little bit right there where the arrow went through, and then a little bit right where she fell. But as far as in between that, the 40-yard stretch, there really was hardly any blood at all. I did look before just walking up on her and really couldn't find, honestly, hardly any. There's just a couple specks. So pretty much exactly what I was expected. Great penetration from the fixed blade head. She died super fast, which I was happy with. It was a heart and double lung shot, so exactly what I was hoping for and what I was aiming for. Overall, this broadhead performed great. Not a lot of blood, but other than that, super quick, clean kill. Walking in for an evening sit, just walking down this lane that you can see behind me, I could see 3 does making their way to the food plot, same food plot I'm going to. One of them stepped out at 54, broadside, had no idea I was there. Got an arrow on, got my release on, and absolutely drilled her. Arrow's laying right down here below me, and zipped through her. Arrow was like 20 yards past where she was, but I already saw the blood trail. She's heading right toward my tree stand. I don't think she made it very far at all, so I'm gonna go track her and maybe take care of her a little bit, then hop in the stand for an evening hunt. Awesome. She literally made it like 20 yards and fell over. Awesome. Already one down for the evening. Once again, the slick trick standard on this one as well. 54-yard shot, which is the farthest shot I've ever taken on a whitetail. I was super confident in it, and I hit exactly where I wanted to. Man, that slick trick zipped right through. It was laying about 10 yards behind where she was standing, and this deer died faster than any deer I've ever seen. I mean, she literally went 20 yards. I mean, I'm guessing under 5 seconds, probably 3 to 4 seconds. She took off running, and then that was it. Just almost instantly she was dead. So super happy with that. Great penetration once again, smaller holes just like the last one with this broadhead, and hardly any blood, just a little bit where she was standing, and then once again some decent blood where she fell. But I mean, she died just so fast I didn't need a blood trail anyway. I just got set up in the stand. There's 3 deer in the food plot, I think 2 does and a spike, and they're headed this direction. I was tracking this doe through this brassica plot. Could hardly find any blood, which isn't surprising. I'm testing out some different broadheads that I haven't shot before, and just not big blood trails, which I wasn't expecting. It's a 1-inch, a 4-blade fixed head, so just not a huge hole, but decided to go back in the timber where I thought she went, and sure enough, she's laying dead in the creek bottom. Let's go get her. Barely made it out of the plot. It's awesome. Nice big doe. My 3rd deer with the slick trick standard head, 40 yards, and she was actually quartering toward me a little bit more than I thought. The entry wound, as you can see in the video, looks about perfect, but where it came out on the other side, it was quite a bit further back than I was hoping for. So it was a double lung and a liver shot, which is why she went a little bit further than the last couple deer. She went about 100 yards total, and I'd say she probably died within a minute, so still fairly quick death. Again, with this broadhead, it just doesn't make a huge hole at all, and I was having a really hard time finding blood. There was good blood for like the first maybe 5 to 10 yards, and it was spraying out, and then after that I could not find any blood up until where I found her, and I wasn't even following blood where I found her. I just knew she went in that general direction, so I was just walking the creek edge, and I happened to see her white belly down there in the bottom of the creek. So not a lot of blood from these fixed blade broadheads. I really wasn't expecting a lot, but that's kind of the trade-off. You get amazing penetration most of the time with a smaller broadhead like this, but not as big of a hole and not as much blood on the blood trail. So it's just kind of a trade-off. Whatever you think you want more of, or whatever you value more is going to be, you know, whichever you should go with in this scenario, whether that's shooting these type of heads or moving on to something that you're going to see next in an expandable head, which personally I have been shooting expandable heads for whitetails as long as I've been bow hunting, and I'm a big fan of them. So that's what's up next, is expandables. Well, I hate to say it, but couldn't find that last doe. I knew the shot was really high, and I thought just from reviewing the footage that it's possible she might survive, because I think it's not even in the body cavity at all. I think it almost hit that scapula and kind of went up because the arrow wasn't at the angle I was shooting at. So I tracked her for a long ways through some really nasty thick stuff, just speck by speck, hands and knees, and eventually just lost blood. It was really dark blood, like a muscle hit. Like, I mean, I might have got a little bit into the back strap or just in that scapula where the muscle's at there on the front leg. But I think if I would have got double lung, she definitely would have been dead a lot sooner. And even a single lung, I think she probably would have been dead. Man, I don't like wounding deer. I hate wounding deer, but I guess that's just how bow hunting goes. Gave it a lot of time, and I don't know, never found my arrow, nothing. I honestly wouldn't be shocked one bit if she survives that and lives on. I've hit deer in the shoulder before and that scapula before, and they've all survived. All the ones, actually every single one I've hit there, including a doe a couple years ago, all survived. So I'm really hoping that's the case with this one. We've got a really nice clover lane that leads out to the Nebraska food plot to my east, and I shot a doe here last year, and it's just been a really good pinch point over the past couple years. Meat. Got her. She dropped really fast. She went like 20 or 30 yards and fell over. So, got another one down. Great blood on the arrow. She didn't make it anywhere. She died in about 5 seconds. As quick, clean as it gets. 2-blade Rage chisel tip 2-inch cut, and it's exactly why I've loved this broadhead for so many years. This doe died super fast. She literally died in less than 5 seconds. She went about 30 yards. It was a heart and double lung shot right behind the shoulder, right where I was hoping to put it. Arrow zipped right on through, complete pass through. There was a bunch of blood right there at the entry wound. A really good trail of blood, and then actually where she fell, I had to clean up all the blood around where she was at and on her hide before I could take photos, because there was just a lot of blood. I'll just put it that way. So this broadhead performed super well, and I'm still extremely happy with the performance of this one. It's really starting to feel like fall this morning. Temperature dropped once again, middle of October. Big cold front rainstorm came through yesterday. Now it's cooled off this morning. Pretty breezy, but the deer on their feet. I already saw 2 big mature does moving around. Here's the arrow right down below me. Really good blood trail, and she whipped around and went in the timber, and I think she's dead not too far away. Well, she just made it about 30 yards out of the field, and that was it. Thankful for another beautiful morning bow hunting whitetails here in the Midwest. Second one with the Rage chisel tip, 20-yard shot. It was pretty low, as you could tell. It was a heart shot, and I don't think I got the lungs at all on this one. Just almost bottom of the heart or middle of the heart. And the blood was insane here once again. A lot of blood right where she was standing, and then she whipped around and went back in the timber behind me, and there was a really, really solid blood trail all the way to where she fell about 30 yards later. She died very, very quickly. Once again, a big cut like that through a deer's heart, it doesn't take them long to expire. So I was super happy with the performance on this one once again. First up tonight is the Sever, and followed by that, if I get another opportunity, is the G5 Dead Meat V2. Meh. Meh. Yes, another one down. Hit her a little bit high. She wouldn't stop, and I didn't want to make too much noise and make her too alert because I knew she was going to duck, and she did duck quite a bit. So I ended up hitting just a little bit high, but I saw the exit hole complete past her right through her. And it looked like a double lung, just higher double lung. And I just heard some crashing down there in the trees right where she disappeared in the video. Probably 80 yards away, so I think she's done for. Hair is totally covered in blood right here. Where she was standing, zipped right through is right where she was, so I'm gonna follow up the blood trail and go get her. And there she is right there. Didn't make it too far at all. Well, the consensus for the Sever tonight did a great job. Open it up, the deer died in probably 100 yards and I don't know, 20 seconds maybe at the most. So quick, clean kill. The shot was actually a lot better than I thought. It was just a smidge high, but I was shooting down at about 30 yards. So exit hole was perfect. The entrance and exit hole is, you know, not too bad. It's not a huge cut in broadhead, so it's about what I expected, and I really didn't find any blood for the first probably 30 yards, but after that it started to get better and better, and then the last 30 or 40 yards right before she died, there was just blood dumping all over. So pretty solid blood trail, good performance, and gonna try another one next, so I'm looking forward to testing some more out and seeing how they do. Back at it again for another hunt. This time I have the G5 Dead Meat V2 that I'm going to try out. Never shot this broadhead, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how it performs. Yes, another doe down. That's number 7 for the year. That worked out perfect. She came right past it, 22 yards. Died right up there, hill in front of me. I've got good blood right here where I hit her. She's laying just right back there in the trees. Awesome to get another doe down, and she only made it 20 yards and then rolled back down the hill toward me. Super quick, clean kill. The Dead Meat really did the job on that one. Like I said, it's the first time I've ever tried it, so I was pretty impressed. The shot was exactly where I wanted it, right behind the shoulder, and I mean, 22 yard shot, like I said, and pretty close, zipped right through her, and she died in literally just a couple seconds. Super quick, which is exactly what I'm looking for. The hole is pretty solid, nothing crazy, but it's a good solid hole. The blood trail was the same where she stood up there on the top of the hill before she fell down. There's a lot of blood, and then on the trail up there's a decent amount too. She ran so fast, so there's not a ton, but pretty solid amount, and like I said, there's no tracking. I saw her fall over right away, so pretty impressed with the Dead Meat. Now it's on to the next one. The most impressive thing about this head for me was the penetration. 22 yard shot, like I said, and I couldn't find this arrow for like 5 minutes afterwards. I was digging around in the grass, looking back and forth, looking back in the trees. Like, I couldn't find it anywhere. I knew it zipped right through. It was a complete pass through, but I couldn't find it. And then finally, after digging through the tall grass more and more, I finally found it. It was literally sticking 8 inches in the dirt. back behind where she was. Like, it went through her and lodged in the dirt 8 inches, and I had to literally jam it out of the mud. It was, I've never experienced that with a whitetail like that. I've had a lot of pass-throughs before, and usually the arrow's just maybe barely sticking in the dirt or just laying on the ground on the other side. But this one, I mean, it was a close shot. It was a smaller deer. It was a younger doe, but it zipped right through so fast and was literally lodged in the dirt. So for that, I was super impressed with the G5 dead meat and the first animal I've harvested with it. Man, if this 8-point shows back up, he's an absolutely beautiful stud buck, mature. He was running all over yesterday, chasing does, grunting, working scrapes, doing the whole thing, and it was amazing. So if he comes back out tonight, I'm gonna shoot him. Tag filled. He had me shaking bad when he was coming in. Oh, it just worked out perfect. Smoked him at 35 yards. Arrow's completely soaked in blood. Perfect double lung shot. And I know he fell over right inside the trees. Let's go get him. What an absolutely amazing mature whitetail buck. Just an absolutely gorgeous 8-point. My first buck of the season, 35-yard shot. He went about 60 yards before piling up and died in 17 seconds with the G5 dead meat. Good blood trail all the way, especially where he was laying. There was a lot of blood. Nothing crazy, but enough to follow for sure. And he died relatively quickly as well. I got good penetration on this one, a little bit further out than the last doe at 22 yards, but that broadhead was still sticking in the ground, not quite as far. It's a lot bigger bodied deer. It's a 240-pound buck, live weight is what I weighed him at. So quite a bit bigger than the other doe I shot, but the broadhead was actually sticking in the dirt, maybe an inch or so. So again, still pretty impressive for expandable broadhead in my setup. Complete passer and sticking in the ground behind. That's exactly what I'm looking for. It didn't hit any major bones or anything like that because it was a little bit back, but overall with this broadhead, it performed great once again. This one I did not get on film. I was putting my cameras up and this doe came in so fast right when I got in the stand. So you'll see in this angle, you can see me actually shoot, but the deer's not in the frame. She was at 17 yards, came right on past, made a shot. This one was with the Grim Reaper. I've never shot an animal with this whatsoever, so super interested to see how it performed. All right, this is the first one. Interior wound right there. That's with the Grim Reaper. It's like, I mean, it's about the size of my fingernail, maybe an inch, maybe. I don't even know I don't think it even opened there. So that was the entry, quartering away a little bit. I don't know how I got guts, but obviously the arrow was not totally blood. So exit is a little better. Right down here. Right there's exit. A lot of blood, bigger hole. Bled pretty good. So that's Grim Reaper. And honestly, I'm a little bit confused. You can see in the photos and video that the entry hole looks about perfect right behind the shoulder. The exit hole looks about perfect. It was lower because I was shooting down at a fairly close shot, but it was right in that pocket like a heart shot. So it looks like a heart and double lung on both sides of the deer, but there was a lot of green on the arrow and on the fletching, which was very confusing because it didn't look anywhere close to the guts or stomach to me. So I'm really not sure what happened there. If for some reason it just was a little bit further back than I had anticipated, and somehow it got that. I really don't know how else I would have had that on my arrow, so I'm guessing it was a little bit further back. But when I did skin her, I did see for sure that it was double lung and heart, so somehow I must have got the liver and maybe a little bit intestine or stomach in there too. But either way, for sure heart and double lung with this broadhead. And here's the crazy part: I watched her for 20 minutes from the tree stand after the shot. She only went about 30 yards and stood in the timber and was just standing there and just wouldn't fall over. I was trying to get another arrow, but it was too thick, and unfortunately I just had to stand there and watch her. But I mean, I've never seen anything like it. I literally timed it on my phone. It was over 20 minutes. She was standing there and then finally piled up not too far away. But just very confused about the performance here. And on the entrance hole, the broadhead definitely did not open up. Like, it was so small. I mean, it was literally the size of my fingernail was the entry hole. So there's no way it opened up on the entry hole. I think what actually happened was the broadhead stayed compacting together all the way through the entry hole, all the way through the vitals, and then when it hit that offside, either the rib cage or the flesh on the offside, the hide on the offside, that's when it actually opened up. So the exit hole is wide as it should be. The broadhead expanded on the exit hole, but I don't think it expanded at all on the inside of the body cavity, and definitely not on the entry hole, which is extremely disappointing and probably why it took this deer a little bit longer to die. So first time shooting a deer with this broadhead. Not super impressed, to be completely honest. I know there's a lot of people that have shot a ton of animals with this and had great success, and that's awesome. But personally for me, as you saw, just a little bit disappointing on this one. Me. Another beautiful evening tonight. Thankfully 2 does came past and gave me a shot. I used a Schwacker on one and a Grim Reaper on the other. Schwacker here. Entry wound, pretty small hole, about slightly bigger than the last one, but pretty small. I mean, 1.25 inches maybe, something like that. We're over. Exit hole right here, a little bit better, probably closer to 2-inch exit hole. Good blood. She made it like 50 yards and died in a couple seconds. The exact same hunt that I used that Grim Reaper on, my next arrow in the quiver was a Schwacker. So another doe came right on past it, 15 yards, shot her. It was a double lung shot, a little bit of the top of the heart as well. She ended up dying in 13 seconds and went 60 yards. So pretty quick, clean death. This deer dropped quite a bit at the shot. They were very spooky. It was a really quiet evening. It's about a 22-yard shot, and she dropped a lot. I did aim low, and she still dropped. It was almost like another scapula shot like I had with the Sever earlier in the season, but I'm not exactly sure if that was it or not. Man, she took off out of there so fast, so it was probably 100 yards before I found any blood, and there was just a really nice sized pile. And then from there on, I tracked her for 3/4 of a mile with really good blood and just never ended up finding her. The arrow, or the blood, was very dark, so I'm thinking it was just a muscle hit. It might have been either that shoulder muscle or maybe even the back strap once again. So a little bit disappointed. It wasn't the greatest shot, so I mean, that's on me. It happens. and I just hit her a little bit higher than I should have, but I never ended up finding that deer. I eventually ran out of blood, tracked her over 3/4 of a mile, and then grid searched from there and just could never find this deer. I really don't know, once again, if she died or if she lived. It's definitely possible she could have lived, even though she did lose some blood. She could have for sure healed up from that wound. So I really don't know what the consensus was of this one. Slightly disappointed with the broadhead. It was mainly my fault for not making a perfect shot on it, but I was expecting just a little bit more penetration on this doe. It wasn't a very big deer, and I think I only got a couple inches of penetration. So the arrow snapped off about 60 yards down the trail, and yeah, I mean, just didn't look like I got much penetration. So a little bit disappointed with this one again. Really a bummer that I couldn't recover this deer. Hopefully she's still out there and is living, but once again, that's kind of the unfortunate thing about bow hunting. Sometimes it just doesn't always go as we plan it.
My target buck just stepped out into the field. I just made a terrible shot at 27 yards. I looked back at the video and it's like in front of the shoulder. I don't know how much penetration I got. The arrow broke off right away. It's right down here below me. Man.
It appears that I got about 8 to 10 inches of penetration. Where the arrow broke off, there's only like 4 inches left in him, but if that's the case, then I definitely got through and maybe hit like that offside leg bone or something, and that's probably why it stopped, because I didn't get much penetration at all, surprisingly. But that's a good sign. There's good blood here on the ground right away, and I can see the path that he took. So
I just took up the trail just a little bit to see what it looked like, because there's really good blood. I found him. He didn't go 100 yards maybe.
what an old beast. That is so cool. Oh man.
I'm really grateful for this one. Made the worst shot I've ever made on a buck, but thankfully he didn't make it very far at all. He died pretty quickly, which I'm extremely grateful for. All right, this one's a little bit different. Hit him way far forward. G5 dead meat, and pretty decent hole, but as you can see, definitely not an ideal shot at all. Way far forward compared to where I was hoping to hit. But he went about 100 yards and died in, I'd say, less than a minute or two. So definitely got some key arteries in there. Still did the job for sure. I think I got about 8 to 10 inches of penetration, lodged in the offside shoulder and snapped off. So very unconventional hit, not a good hit, not a shot I'm proud of, but I'm really grateful that he died very, very quickly and didn't go far at all. These were my findings for my broadhead test this year. 6 different broadheads, 11 different harvests, not a super large sample size, and every situation is a little bit different, but it was super fun to be able to test different broadheads. It's really hard to determine what's going to happen in every situation because every situation is different, and every bow setup's different, and every arrow setup's different, and there's just a lot of variables that go into it. By far, shot placement is the most important factor here. Regardless of what broadhead is used, a good shot is always necessary. After these tests, every single broadhead that went through a deer looked perfectly fine afterwards. No bent blades on any of them, just minor scuffs on the blades, no bent ferrules or anything like that. So in that case, toughness wise, all these broadheads performed great. As for my personal favorite, the Rage Chisel Tip has always been my favorite, but that G5 Dead Meat V2, I'm pretty impressed with it, to be completely honest. The main thing I liked about it was the great penetration, especially on the first 2 animals. better than any other expandable broadhead I've ever shot. Getting a complete pass through and then burying in the dirt on the other side with my setup is honestly pretty impressive to me. The slick trick performed great, but I just like a bigger hole and more blood for whitetail hunting, so I don't really plan to use that head. The Sever and the Swacker performed okay, but just not as good as some of the other broadheads that I personally like a little bit more. And then the Grim Reaper didn't perform quite to how I was hoping to. Again, not a huge sample size, so you could shoot 1,000 different times and get different results every time. But just from this past season of shooting these 6 different broadheads, the top 2 that I like are the Rage Chisel Tip and the G5 Dead Meat personally. With that said, there are a ton of different broadhead options, and you need to just use whatever works best for you, what you have the most confidence in and with. Doesn't really matter what I like or what I think works best for me. You need to test out what works best for you and really believe in that and trust in that and use whatever you really want to use. And more importantly than that, no matter what broadhead you use, the most important thing is to just have fun bow hunting out in creation, enjoying the great outdoors. So if you like this video, it would really mean a lot if you subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, comment down below if you have more ideas of what broadheads I should test out in the future, or any information about your findings over the years and what broadheads you like or dislike. Thanks again so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.